That's very exciting. I like it. Okay. Alright. Feeling comfy. I've been waiting for this day for a long time, people. This is good. This is really good. I wanted to come and do this back in 2020. I lived about 5 minutes from the studio, and I had a little wee pink bicycle that I wanted to buy when I moved into the city. And I just felt like I needed to speak, and I needed a studio. And this place, it just opened. And I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So I'm very, very excited. This is awesome. Welcome to the Speak Joy podcast. This is a place I want you to relax, put on your comfy slippers, your comfy pants, so to speak. And I just want you to enjoy this time that we are about to have together. And I want to get to know you. So I am Bonnie Brown, and welcome to the Spark Joy podcast. Welcome to the Spark Joy podcast. I'm your host, Bonnie Brown. What brings you joy will bring you life. Not just what makes you money or, what you do every day, but actually what truly makes you completely feel alive. I used to believe that joy meant that, after you've done everything right or you've worked really, really hard, that maybe then you could be full of joy when you got the reward. But maybe joy is actually not about that. It's actually about rest and not about striving, but actually being your most authentic self and just, returning to what truly makes you come alive. But I've learned something completely different. Joy isn't extra. Joy is essential. Joy it's a guide, it's a signal, and it shows you, if you can tap into it, it's going to show you exactly where you should go next in your life. But you've got to be able to tap into that joy. Gosh, no, not to be productive or, to tick all the boxes, but actually, it's simply to remember who you actually are. I've got a secret. What brings you joy will bring you life. And that is the topic and the subject of this podcast. Joy is an extra. It's a key, it's a signal, and it will unlock you. Follow your joy and you'll follow your path. Follow your joy and watch your life unlock. This is Spark Joy, and we are just getting started. This has been a dream of mine to have this podcast for about 4 years. And so, it's kind of felt like a delay. But I don't believe that it is a delay. I think it's perfect timing. And so, I'm really into this idea of things marinating and actually, when the right timing, all of those ingredients can come together. So I've been in a marination process of, all the pain, the struggles, the obstacles, the difficulties, and all of these different ingredients, the love, all the joy, count it all as joy, for the struggle. But all of these ingredients are actually coming together at this time to create this wonderful show called the Spark Joy podcast. And, I'm about to just literally pour out my whole heart to, I want to make your life better, basically, on the Spark Joy podcast. So please share it, please subscribe, and let's get joyful, guys. Love you. What if joy was the most elegant decision you could ever make? When you're aligned with joy, you speak differently, you walk differently, your relationships are different. You speak with authority and you speak with joy. Joy is beauty in motion. It's strategy in stillness. It's a deep breath before your breakthrough. And that's why I created the Spark Joy podcast. It's not just a podcast. This is a portal. Right here, between heaven and earth, my voice to you, us together. We're doing this together. And as I, tune in, and each week I'm going to be bringing lessons. I'm going to bring on some guests as well who are aligned with this whole theme of how joy just makes our life a lot more better, that it's actually absolutely pivotal. It should be like the axis to, when you think of like something that hinges off everything else. It's about having this joy. I tell you what, when you have joy, it's really hard to be depressed when you're joyful. Like, you can't actually be both. I've actually had that happen to me before, where I just felt so heavy and so depressed, and then and then I felt that there's been like, it's almost like a window opens or a door into that portal of joy, and I can get out of that depression or out of that heaviness, or what's been, feeling like it's trying to like, it's like a heavy blanket, or like this jacket, right? Like this coat, but putting on, your coat of joy. And so I'm so happy that you're here. And this podcast is like putting on a coat, and it's going to be a coat of joy. Okay, so make sure you subscribe, share it with your friends. This is the Spark Joy podcast. It's to help you see differently. If we can change our perspective, if we can change how we see things in our whole experience of our circumstances, of our life, our finances, all of it, if this whole concept of, well, it's not even a concept, it's actually a tangible property. It's the property of joy. And this is what I'm bringing you. The authority and the sound of my voice as I talk about joy gets released through this podcast, and you can actually like capture it and like kind of like catch onto it in the sound waves as it comes across. I want you, as you hear my voice and as you hear me talk about these concepts, and maybe some of them are quite foreign to you. I know that I had, early on when I first came up for the concept of this kind of joyful self-discovery, and unfortunately I shared it with someone who was a bit of a naysayer, and they kind of laughed and, kind of mocked me and said it sounded like Christmas. Well, maybe it is a little bit like Christmas. I certainly like Christ, and he was born at Christmas. But, this whole idea about joy and receiving gifts and receiving things, at Christmas, it's kind of a bit extra. And so this podcast is definitely a bit extra, and I'm a bit extra. So if maybe you're a bit extra, or if you need a little bit of extra in your life, then this podcast, I'm offering this to you, to be part of, tuning in each week. And I hope that something in this podcast, and what I bring will, strengthen you and, bring you peace, maybe help you see from a new perspective. And I hope that we can be friends. I'm Bonnie, lovely to meet you. And I'm looking forward to kind of getting into the subject. I want to be an expert on joy. I mean, there's a lot of experts in the world on all kinds of different subjects, aren't there? But if you have to pick what you do for your calling, for your work, for your career, I think joy, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm going to be writing a very, very big list of what makes me joyful, and I am open to invitations. If you listen to this podcast and you think there's something of joy that I would love and you want to invite me to it, please have a look down below. All my contact details are there, or you can follow me on Instagram at my Instagram address, which is, in the show notes. And let's connect, let's get together and create some of these, experiences, because I'm all into experiences. I think they're the things that it's definitely a high value for me. And if you know something that's going down, that's joyful, you want me to be part of it, I want to be part of it. To help you see differently. Because, real success, it doesn't actually shout. Like, it's not really that flashy. Real success for me and what I've learned over the last 7 years is that it's in rest, not striving, and in perseverance, and some of these other characteristics which you can never get if you're winning. I've had a lot of failure and a lot of things that have actually not gone right. I've been through the fire, as I'm sure you have too. I heard this saying and it said, show your scars, not your wounds. And I think in terms of me releasing this podcast, because of the trials, the fiery trials that I've certainly walked through, and the disappointments and the failures, that I've had to actually let some of those wounds heal up, be cleaned out, to get to that more scar stage, which is, you really don't want to be listening to anybody who hasn't, who's still kind of got the poison of that still in there. So where I was going with that is, Spark Joy podcast. And this whole subject of joy is that it's not an absence. Joy is not an absence of that nothing has gone wrong or that life is, going to be perfect, because as long as we're here on earth, life is never going to be perfect. We know that. That there's, that we live in a broken world and a fallen world where things that we don't want to happen do happen. Joy, it whispers and it speaks of peace. So when you align with what makes you joyful, it just feels really, really good in your bones. It feels good in your gut, in your heart, in your mind, and that you have a peace about it. Joy is a catalyst. It is like slotting a key in the lock of your most authentic self, your most pure and true essence, and turning the lock and opening that up, that you can actually, step into joy and step into peace of, who God designed you to be, who you truly are, without fear, without, disappointment or obstacles or things in your way, but that you can truly be the person that you would, create it to be. And so this is my mission of this podcast, to see you come into that fullness, to see you have the confidence and the knowledge of, how to, kind of brush off some of that other stuff that's gotten in the way of you, being able to dream and have vision and be creative and make money and create a business and create a life that actually brings true aligned joy. When joy clicks in, everything will shift. Joy is an absolute catalyst. Joy, it's not cute. Joy is war. And if you're in war, you need joy. Whether you're warring in your circumstances, in your business, in your health, in any area, you need joy. And so you're going to get a little bit of joy on this show, and I'm going to show you how to be an overcomer and how to reach for hope and to reach for the greater things and reach past, into something that you've never experienced before through this portal, this podcast, Spark Joy. Joy, it's a guide, it's an access point that will usher you in. It's going to bring you right in through the gate into your most divine purpose and destiny. If you can connect in with that, and that's what I'm going to teach you, it's what we're going to unpack, why we're, here in this podcast, as I joke, in this joy portal, come and climb inside and let's see if we can just peel back the ceiling, so to speak, so that you can access a bit of heaven and access, a bit of joy, to be able to see your whole life in a fresh way with a fresh perspective. That's what this is about. When you follow your joy, you unlock your whole life. Things can start accelerating really quickly. I mean, I've seen in my own life, circumstances will shift very abruptly when you start accessing this pure portal of your joy, of what's true for you. Nothing will be impossible. It says nothing's impossible with God, when things can be impossible with man. And so when you're coming into your divine identity, when you can access into that, it's just like childlikeness, this pureness of what you know that you love and enjoy and what brings you joy. It's really simple. Like, this show is not complicated. This is coming back to some really fundamental, simple truths which you can apply today. By the end of this show, I'm going to be giving you, 3 steps, and you can download my joy guide. So please do. It's free, and you should actually share it with everybody that you know. And so that is the way. Joy is a guide, it's an access point into your true, most creative path, into clarity and wisdom, and being able to actually honor some of those true desires that are embedded, in your spirit man, inside your joy. Jesus is my joy, and he leads me. He brings me out of prison. Any internal, mental prison, that's what I'm referring to. It's important to say that the joy of the Lord is my strength, and that is the foundation of this podcast. And you don't necessarily have to, maybe you're not, completely spiritual or have faith or anything like that. And I'm fine with that. I'm happy for you to cherry pick or, take the pieces that really speak to you, and you can just get rid of the rest or fast forward it. You'll be able to see that in each episode that will be highlighted what each section's about. But I just really don't want to just make this podcast for one group of people, and I feel like joy is something that's universal. But my foundation for my joy is definitely my faith in Christ. And, and it says that, that the Lord is my strength. And I've definitely found that as I've gone through fires in my own life, that Jesus is my, the Lord is my battering ram. He goes ahead and breaks through gates and obstacles and things that would try and, hold me back or pin me down or, keep me from fulfilling my purpose and the promises of God that I believe, that He's calling me to. And so, I recommend faith. I recommend Jesus. I recommend, having a relationship with God. So, it would be inauthentic of me to do this podcast and then not talk about my faith, because it's absolutely it would be like me not talking about, a vital part of who I am. God's definitely the most important person, would be my number one in my life. And this podcast, I wouldn't even be making this if it wasn't for hearing God's voice and His encouragement. I've been reading this book lately by Julia Cameron, and it's about the spiritual path of creativity. And I don't know if anyone's ever read it, please comment in my Instagram. I might put something about it in there. But, she talks about having someone who can encourage you in your creativity or in she's talking to creatives, so writers, poets, producers, makers, artists, photographers, filmmakers, all of that type of genre. Anyone who's creative. It's so vast. I think business is creative these days, especially, with the whole content creating. But I love this book because she talked about how not to share your vision or your creative, let's say, story, something that you've worked on, with someone who's not in your court. They're not going to be a safe person for you to share this creative endeavor with, especially while it's in its infancy. and so it's taken me a long time to get to this point where I could even, record this podcast with the confidence and the assurance that I have. But I have to say, it hasn't come from man, my confidence. My confidence has completely come from my relationship with God and from hearing the Lord's voice towards me and reminding me of what brings me joy. And that's why I'm coming back around to this. My whole life, since I was a little girl, I wanted to be, on TV. Which I don't want to shame anybody's dream or what's important to you, but since I was little, that's all I ever wanted to do. I would ring my TV producing, filmmaking Uncle Dave, and he worked for TVNZ for the local Auckland, TV station. Every day after school, I would rush home 8, 9, 10. And I would ask Uncle Dave, I might have been younger, he still laughs about it, can you get me on TV? This is what I would ask, because there was something in my bones. I just knew I had to be on TV, that was my destiny and my purpose to be on screen. And I'm going to play, actually, I'm going to put it in my YouTube video, some old video footage of me saying, please record me, film me, and I'm holding a microphone, and I wanted to be an actress. This stuff is what leads you to joy. This is, my purpose, my outworking of the gifts and the talents, which is communication and media and speaking and creativity, and bringing other people into purpose, and then sending people out into the marketplace with mandates. I've become so confident with my encourager, and it's cool if you've got a human that can do this for you, who can get alongside you and pull out and see the gifts and talents that are inside of you and encourage you to pursue them. I have had that from time to time. My mother definitely was that person. She said, you're such a fabulous writer, Bonnie. And my writing probably sucked at the time. I don't know if it's that much better now, but, she was such an encourager all the time. And she'd tell me every day, how beautiful I was. You're so beautiful before I could even talk. Do you mean? So, but she died in 2018, and, I had a lot of negative voices in my life and not encouragement. And then the people that I did have who were encouraging me, some of those people fell away, and I could not rely on them to be my strength, or what is it, that like the life-saving buoy that you wear when you're out at sea to kind of keep you afloat. I have walked on water, and had to come back and let the Lord God, my God, actually come and encourage me and give me divine intelligence about this is the way that you should go. This is your path. And let go of a lot of things. I've had to let go of, my career in property and investing in real estate and a marriage and friendships and a city. There's just been so many, and a home, of letting things go because, and this is why I'm circling back around, Julia Cameron's book, you should get it, The Creative Path, The Spiritual Path for Creatives. God's mentioned a lot in it. It's a very top-selling book, but it's, this podcast would kind of sit in that territory. I don't know if she is a Christian. I think she is. She speaks about Christianity a lot. But, the whole book, and it encouraged me, is about getting people to connect into the voice of God and connect into, their intuition and that understanding of that still small voice. And, I hope that you take that all the way through. I'm definitely a believer and rely on God's voice, not just daily, every hour, even on the way here to record this. I felt God say, I actually just saw my hand, and I was like, what's in my hand, God? And he said, tell the people, on this podcast that they are holding something that's true, that they've been holding like a little pebble of truth since they were born, since they were, that I've given them something that was true for them. And and people have come along and maybe discouraged you and told you that's not true, or you couldn't do that, or you've lost hope or belief or confidence or courage, or even like the know-how. You've just been like, looked at it from time to time and been like, I'd love to be that, do that, create that. I don't know what that true thing is for you that's in your hand. It's like a pebble. But this is what I felt God say on the way here, that if you will open your hand and look at that again and kind of partner with God, that's still true. What he put in your heart and what that people that you're holding, that it's still true. And so I'm here. I want to encourage you and be that voice. If you give me permission, if you don't already have somebody to encourage you to pursue your dreams and to fulfill your purpose and your promise in life, and go beyond, the life, even where you are at the moment. Like, let's just like blow your mind about how far you could go and the possibilities that are ahead of you. And that thing that you're holding, that pebble, is still true for you. And so today, my prayer really is that, maybe you're doing something else for your career right now, and it's good and it's wonderful, and maybe you enjoy it, but there's something else, because this is I feel like, my path and what I've walked is, I had a career doing one thing, but there was something true that I was holding that I was not paying attention to. So this is what this is about, that you would come and pay attention to something that you haven't looked at for a long time, and that you would return to the joy and the truth of what you're holding, and that there's, it's like a seed, it's a pebble, it's something for you to, that would be awakened in your life, and that you could return to that truth and that essence. And I just felt that, that's from my heart. So if that's for you, that's really cool. That was quite intense. But anyway, Spark Joy podcast. I think it's going to be really fun. And please like, comment, give me feedback. What would you like to hear when you think about Spark Joy? What sprung to mind? What do you think Spark Joy? What does that mean to you? And tell me, are there some subjects that you'd like me to speak on? I have, many topics, and I'm going to be led week by week. And I want to be a catalyst and somebody who can really encourage you in terms of going beyond what you already know, because the arena of familiarity and living a life that is familiar really can, keep a lot of people small and just, ordinary. And I say that not to offend anybody, but if you want to, experience more in your life and experience something more vast, that I would be here encouraging you and demonstrating how you can step outside of your comfort zone, outside of the familiar, and experience that true thing, that people from your childhood, maybe that trueness of your most joyful essence, and of that being displayed, and coming forth in this world, so that we can all benefit from it. This is the Spark Joy podcast. I am Bonnie Brown, and I'm so happy to be here.